All right, welcome back to Sunset Rewind Boys Lacrosse, episode 2. Yeah. I lost count there. 1, 2. So that's what happens when you get out of coaching and you just become a referee. Anyway, I'm here with the renowned, the one and only Blake Lenk, the missing Lenk from the racing team. Lenk Racing from Merrill Lynch, I believe it is also, right? You work with it? During the day and at night when he puts his cape on, he's a coach of Newport Harbor Boys Lacrosse team. And mind you, one of my most favorite players and the first player from Newport Harbor to play Division I lacrosse, to go back east. He went to Towson first and then transferred to Wagner, which is the same school Newport Harbor's football coach went to, Wagner. And they're both the Newport kids who went back to Staten Island, right? And to play with the big boys, right? And then, particularly in lacrosse. It's a whole different world of lacrosse back east and out west. But the West Coast is certainly catching on really, really fast, 100%. So, Blake, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. I think we were, blessed to have you here because not only are you a Newport Harbor legacy, right? You're also becoming a legend. And the reason why, how many years have you been associated with the lacrosse team? Not including your 3 years as a player, because you came on as a sophomore, I remember.
As a freshman.
Was a freshman? Yeah. Okay, so 4 years as a player. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 4 years playing at Newport Harbor and then 4 years in college.
3 years of varsity, that's what it was.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so it puts us at 8, and then going on my 7th season coaching, so 15 years total in the game.
7th season coaching in Harbor. You were the second longest tenured coach at Newport Harbor next to me.
Yeah,
Right?
It's, worked from the way up. Right when I graduated, I came back home and was JV assistant coach, then the JV head coach, varsity assistant, and now this is my 3rd season as a varsity head coach.
Tell me the evolution of that. Now, I kind of witnessed it a little bit, but from your perspective, did you ever imagine, because you never played lacrosse before Newport Harbor.
Correct.
Right? You were a professional Baja racer. Talk about a segue, right? I mean, from Baja racing to playing lacrosse in Newport Harbor, did you ever imagine that one day you might be coaching there?
No, and frankly, it's everything's just really fallen into place. It's all been a blessing in disguise. When we stopped racing, we're going into high school. My parents were big proponents of finding a team sport, finding an organization to be a part of, and I mean the second I stepped a foot on that field, I fell in love with the game. Fell in love with what you were doing as a coach. And it's been a great experience ever since start. So
well, thank you for that. It was a joy coaching you, and some people don't understand. Here's a heroic thing about Blake, and I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. But you overcame a lot of adversity as a kid. Tell us some of the tremendous things that you overcame to become a Division I athlete.
Yeah, I think the one that really stands out and the biggest hurdle was. Going into high school, I had a procedure done to my heart. So I had a heart surgery, and it was due to irregular heartbeats when I overexerted myself. So getting over that, I had an episode. I think it was right before getting into Newport Harbor, where my heartbeat was up at 240 for I want to say 4 hours, and even going to Hogue, they couldn't calm it down, and long story short, after going to see various doctors and specialists in that area, they really associated with, it was just a growth spurt, whether that that the heart wasn't being able to keep up at that time, so it was overexerting itself, and during that time, it was also, I had to put myself in a position to be in better shape than my peers.
Right, yeah.
So, these events wouldn't happen. But once junior year at Newport Harbor really rolled around, I kind of got over that for the most part.
Okay, so no medical procedures done?
Yeah, I had a surgery done where they had gone up through the arteries. And
so you had heart surgery?
Yeah. Yeah. And it,
Subtle,
it was,
but heart surgery.
yeah. And it, that it was due to kind of that growth spurt. There was, there were some things that they needed to go in and take out.
Take out?
With a laser. Yeah. Just kind of cut out and kind of clear the vents.
You had a laser beam in your chest, in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah. At one point, but, yeah, I mean, ever since that, it wasn't, too long of a process to get back out there and running. It was more of just due diligence with seeing doctors to make sure that, when the time was right, I was healthy and, getting over that. But, from the time I had my procedure, it was probably 9-10 months before I was kind of back out there running around.
That's amazing. A laser beam, that's how Superman kills people. I mean, a laser beam in the chest. My God, that's amazing. So I take it you don't do many energy drinks.
No.
Probably good advice, right?
No, yeah.
So what got you into lacrosse, Blake?
Frankly, you. I mean, it was, like I said, coming out for my, coming into Newport Harbor, I knew I wanted to be a part of a team. I hadn't really played ball sports. I played a little bit of t-ball and baseball growing up, but nothing really stuck. Right. I hadn't really done a whole lot of I didn't do the Pop Warner, I didn't do the AYSO.
Right.
And then coming in, I was my parents wanted to fill my calendar for that summer going into Harbor, so they signed me up for the lacrosse summer camp. And it was my older brother who, my second oldest brother, he's 10 years older than me. He actually played at Newport Harbor right when they first were starting a team.
Yep.
So there was always a lacrosse stick. His old lacrosse stick, he played 1 year laying, against the wall in the garage. So I think that maybe that was a little bit of my calling, and maybe it was I already had a stick, so I was just going to go out there and go do it.
Little did your brother know that he was planting a seed, which would be such a profound growth in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to look back on it, on how big of how big of a piece that lacrosse is in my life and what it's come into, and like I said, it's all just really been a blessing.
Who have been, who have been the biggest influences in your lacrosse career? Players, other coaches. Who do you kind of reflect upon and say, "Well, that person has impressed something upon my psyche"?
Frankly, I would say you. I mean, as you, with being my high school coach,
that is not a self-serving question. Yeah. I was trying to guide them to other people, but thank you. Go ahead. So,
yeah,
God, I may have destroyed this young man.
No, I mean the biggest thing is when I came out there, I didn't go through the youth lacrosse route. I didn't. I wasn't exposed to the game at such an early age, so I knew that kind of coming in, it was also new to me, and there was some of my peers have been playing for so many years,
right?
And I always kind of had a little bit of that underdog mentality, and I think the biggest thing that really you instilled in me was, regardless of the cards that you're being dealt, you got to go out there and fight. And if you're gonna, maybe being that underdog and kind of having that chip on your shoulder, gives you a little bit of extra motivation. But ultimately, in the end, the only person that can say no is really yourself. You can go out there and go out there and fight and get what's yours. It's always got to be competitive with it.
It's easy to say that, but let me give the people watching at home an example of how he really embodied that. And I'm sure you may remember this. We're playing Los Alamitos back in your junior or senior year. It's your senior year.
Senior year, yep.
Right? We're down 3 men. 3 men in the penalty box. Right? Maybe going on 4. I think it was just you going out there to face off, and we had 2 guys on attack, a goalie, and 2 guys on or 3 guys on defense. So we were down a bit of guys. So Blake goes out there to face off against Los Alamitos, who's currently in first place. We need to win this game. We're down by 1. It's in the 4th quarter. Talk about resilience. Blake goes out there, faces off with a long stick because he's a defenseman, right? So he faces off with a long stick, gets the ball, goes down the field, draws a slide, passes the ball to Johnny Moores, I think, who scored.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we tie the game 3 men down. Maybe 4. It was like the legend grows. We might have been 10 men down. No, but I'm playing. No, we were 3 men down, at least 3 men down.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, we went 4-man down because you got a penalty for celebrating.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So we were 4-man down right after we tied the game.
Yeah, it was a juice goal.
Yeah. But let me tell you what, that pumped everybody up because that was just something unbelievable. That was, I mean, the odds of that happening are slim to none, and especially with a guy who just had a laser beam in his heart going out there and making that happen. I mean, you had just picked up lacrosse in high school. So that talks about like a level of dedication and commitment. And I remember it was the 4 seniors, you, Johnny Moores, Alex Fuller,
yep.
and Liam Whalen. And you were my 4 captains. And I remember telling you guys at the end of your junior year, the last game, I said, your senior year starts now.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you guys really took on that summer and really started to just own it and develop, and we ended up winning first place.
Yeah,
I think it was the first time we got first place in Sunset League in some time, and then we continued to win it again and again and again and again. I think 6 or 7 times, but who's counting? Anyway, let's talk about some other things. Like, what is the biggest lesson you've learned throughout your coaching career?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest lesson, and that I really learned this right out the get-go, is you can't want it more than the players. I mean, you can do everything you can as a coach, to go out there and, motivate them and do everything behind the scenes. But unless, the players really want it, that's got to be the biggest thing. So, in order to coach that, really creating a culture to where they all want to do it for each other and not themselves.
That is really well said. So how do you do that? Do you model the behavior of like a passion like that you want it, and then they should want it vicariously?
Yeah. So that really one of our beliefs, one of my beliefs as as a coach and bringing a coaching staff to Newport Harbor was we wanted a very high energy, more of a very a staff that's going to create a very up-tempo practice.
Yes.
And both myself and Matt, we bring that, and also Christian Rulis, who's a goalie with you.
Ugly Betty.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah, so.
No, if you saw this guy and you saw the glasses he used to wear in high school, the translation fits Ugly Betty, because like the TV show was on. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I think the 3 of us do a great job with bringing a very up-tempo, very competitive practice plan to the table and letting these players compete on a daily basis. And that's the biggest thing, when they show up and they give it 100% for a full practice, and they do that over repetition over and over again, they get more invested in themselves into the product and what we're doing as a team. So not even just at practice, but what we talk about outside of practice, with the grades and, being a good teammate and being a member of the lacrosse team at Newport Harbor. It's not just at the practice, it's wearing the logo at school and being, a good look for the team. Just doing so much of these things that we kind of talk about, it really, embodies what a Newport Harbor lacrosse player is. And, in the end, we've seen just in these, these last 3 years that we have a lot of lacrosse players who are fully invested into what we're talking about, which is,
culture.
Yeah.
Culture. So it makes such a huge difference. People talk about modeling behavior, and I'm not talking about the Zoolander. Yeah. Show your blue steel, Blake. Anyway. But modeling behavior is much more than Zoolander. Mm-hmm. It is actually walking your talk. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it's really important that your players see you walk your talk. And one of your guys on your staff is also a former Navy SEAL. Mm-hmm. They're not going to question his strength and conditioning routine. I think that's pretty that goes without question. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, he brings a very, let's just say a high disciplined workout to the table. It's great for them.
You guys doing sit-ups in the water still or no?
No.
Any waterboarding? No. Okay. All right. Just making sure. All right. So let's talk about, so your philosophy has kind of developed since you first came as a coach. But a lot of it, I see it from you as a player too. You definitely, because I've watched you coach, you definitely have a love and passion for that and commitment to that program that is just, you bleed Sailor Blue. I think that's true, and I think that's probably true for many of the coaches who are alumni. And I think Principal Bolton has actually hooked on to that idea of having alumni coach the program because, first of all, you guys would do it for less. Anyway, but it is a bit of sailor pride, and I think it's wonderful. How do you, when you're fostering a culture amongst your players, right? What is some of the key things you guys done? You've gone on trips, you've done things. Are there things that practice do? What stands out to like that Newport Harbor does that's unique?
Yeah, I think we do our camping trip each year. This year we had to cancel it, but we like putting the team in situations to where they're not just developing relationships on the field. They're also developing those relationships off the field. And something that myself and the other coaches we consistently talk about is that your relationship with your teammates is gonna be different at a practice versus off the field, because just to create such a competitive atmosphere. We like it, like I said, very competitive, chippy practice. But then, once the helmets come off and the gloves come off, they're going to be best friends, on campus, outside of school.
I'm looking at your roster here, and I 5 seniors. That's it.
We have 8 seniors.
8 seniors.
Yes.
That's a relatively small senior class.
It is. Yeah, it's not going to be the same next year. Our program as a whole is very, very very heavy in the junior class. And
I'm looking. Your juniors are you're deep with juniors.
Yeah, and it's been great for us. those were the freshmen that were there when I first picked up, started as a head coach, and they've kind of been with me thus far, and being so say top heavy in that junior class, it's been a unique dynamic so far this season with how things are going. Just because not just a few months ago, last season they were sophomores, and we had a good senior class that was great leaders. They were great leaders on and off the field, and now that all those sophomores, those underclassmen are now juniors, thus far in the season, it's provided a lot of opportunities for them to really grow in their leadership skills. Now they're really those top guys.
Who are your captains?
Right now, Mike Karamanduv, Parker Atkins, and Spencer Creed. So 2 juniors.
Spencer Creed is a junior?
Yes, Parker Atkins is a junior.
Parker Atkins.
And then Michael Karamanduv is a senior.
Boy, you pronounced that much better than you could spell it. That's an amazing last name. That's amazing. Look at that. That's got
4 years.
That's got more letters than the alphabet itself. It's like supercalifragilistic. Expialidocious. That's an impressive name. I love that. That's good. I mean, when you got a last name like Todd, 4 letters, it doesn't get much simpler than that. So, or Lenk.
Yeah.
Right.
I got 2 one-syllables. Blake Lenk.
Yeah, no. It's funny because everybody refers to you as Blake Lenk, right? Yeah. And like there's me, Mark Todd, like Billy Bob. Mm-hmm. Anyways, enough of non sequitur. So 1 junior captain, 2 senior captains,
2 juniors.
2 juniors.
1
Pardon me. Yes. Mm-hmm. And then, how many seniors are starting?
Right now, it's 2.
2 seniors are starting.
Yeah.
And then of the 6 seniors, I presume the other seniors probably got into the game late.
Yeah. We've frankly we've had some pretty good luck with. I'm a big advocate of giving those upperclassmen a chance when they want to come over to lacrosse.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that goes into being a good lacrosse player. And when I say, lacrosse player at Newport Harbor, I mean, you have the skills, but then you also have the good teammate part. And we've had, over the last 2 years, we've had upperclassmen who have picked up a lacrosse stick for the first time, and they've just been overwhelmingly good teammates. And, they've rightfully earned their spot as, with a varsity number, just with how good of teammates they are. And then, ultimately their level of commitment. I know that's, an upperclassman who comes out, they obviously see the younger guys and, they have the stick skills. And frankly, it's probably a little intimidating when you're an older guy out there and you can't pass and catch like the younger guys.
Frustrating.
So it definitely develops a little bit of grit into them, and motivates them to get out on the wall after practice, outside of practice hours. And frankly, up to this point, we have had some pretty good luck with those seniors. Frankly, last year, we had a senior who just picked up a stick for his first time in his senior year after football. He'd never touched a lacrosse stick. He picked up the face-off position, and he excels.
That's awesome.
He was actually a team captain for us.
Oh,
last
wonderful.
year. Yeah.
Big kid, right?
Yeah, Mason.
I met that kid. Yeah, he's a nice young man. It's interesting. I know I met a couple families, and they're Newport Harbor. They live on this side of the bay, but they go to CDM, right? And I think, what happens is once you've been a head coach now for 3 years, and you put your own personal stamp on the program. I think you'll see a lot of people staying on this side of the bay because they see what you're about, and you're about so much more. Like, for instance, I mean, you're a young man. Most of the parents are older than you, right? As they were for me when I started coaching. Now I'm the guy whose kids are being coached by you. But, it's interesting. Your parents were wonderful people. Your mom worked with the school district, and your parents had great influence on it. Tell me about your relationship with the parent group.
It's really good. We have some great parents that are a part of the program, and frankly, there's so much. Our team extends so far beyond just the names on the roster. The things that make a team really special, whether team dinners, all the fundraising events that we do. The little things. Just as at our last home game, I had a parent coming up to us the day before and being like, we're going to do concessions. We're going to be selling some swag. And it's things like that that really, embody that, that Newport Harbor spirit, and, really gives a special experience to not only the players, but the fans and just overall an event. So, to answer your question, it really takes an army to make things, as special as they can be. And without the parents, and, I'm so grateful for the parents that we do have, because, they're throttled down and they're awesome.
I agree with that. I often found that there was a strong correlation with the success of our season with the involvement of our parent group.
Yeah.
The more absentee parents we had, the less enthusiasm the team seemed to have. It seemed to translate in that regard. So I think it's great that they're involved, and Sunset Rewind is a great way to get involved. Make sure you look at our sponsor. Check below. I don't know what's going to be down there, but it's going to be our sponsor. So, right. Anyway, so power to the Sunset Rewind.
Yeah.
But back to you, Blake. You're 4-4 this year so far.
Yep.
Oftentimes, like I was joking with GW when I had him here, oftentimes I could, and the teams you schedule are really, really high caliber, explosive lacrosse teams. Some of the best teams in all of this Southern Section, CIS Southern Section. And it looks like you've brought on some of the strategy where you're scheduling the hardest teams up front, so when you get to league, you're playing fast. Is that correct? Or is that intentional or unintentional?
No. I think from a talent perspective, we've really dispersed it throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, especially with this group and, how many juniors we have on the team, coming into these leadership roles, a huge part of their player development is really learning how to handle the ebbs and flows of not only a lacrosse season, but breaking it down even to a game, the game point of view. So, we've thus far in the season, for 4-4, we've had some great games. We've had some learning lessons, and we're really at that point to where now, being at this point in the season, it's really a question of how are we going to respond to these. I love
that you didn't call it a loss. You called it a learning lesson, and that's a victory in itself. Take the L, but make it a learn, not a loss. Right? That's beautiful. You played Sierra Canyon. The bus broke down?
The bus did break down. Yeah, it was quite an event.
Before you left up there, or were you stranded up there?
We were stranded up there. So it was after playing them, we loaded up the bus and then the bus wouldn't start. So they had to bring in a bus from Newport Mesa. They had to leave here, get all the way up there. It was probably an extra 2.5 hour delay.
So you were on a yellow school bus, not a coach bus?
Correct. Yeah.
Public schools can't buy it, can't beat it.
Grittiness.
as GW said. So CDM is public school 76 or 78 or something. Do you know the number of Newport Harbor public school? What?
I don't. No.
I coached there 10 years. I don't have a single clue. I didn't even know they had them broken down numerically, right? I would imagine Harbor would probably be like 1 or close to it because it was the first school in the district. I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
My dad went to Newport Harbor, so it's been around here for a while.
Your dad went to Newport Harbor before the 880 building, right? With the apartments.
Yes.
Yeah, when it used to be like another playing field.
Mm-hmm.
They should have kept that. You know.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy too because my parents were involved when I was as a player, and they still come out to the games, and it's really I'm gonna say humbling when my dad comes out to the field and he shares his perspective of just how Newport Harbor as a school has grown over the years.
Sure.
I mean, I thought the just the facility improvement from when I was at Newport Harbor when Davison Field was grass to now turf, it's like wow, that's crazy. And
Davison Field, when you played, was a sandlot. With a big hump that went right down the middle of the field and puddles that were there for weeks on the sidelines.
Ground balls were I
art.
guess a different learning lesson because it had a curve.
Yeah, I mean, if you could scoop a ground ball in Davison Field, you could scoop a ground ball anywhere. You're like a minesweeper in the military or something. That's kind of what it was. It's so dangerous, that field. It was so bad, but it's a wonderful field now. Do people still complain because we got the universal lacrosse lines? So the universal lacrosse lines, in case you don't know, are a little bit bigger because they, instead of having all the lines, on the field and making it look like an 80s party. Mm-hmm. We try to break it down to singular lines, where the boys and girls have the same lines for the most part. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yeah. We the crease area. The lines, they are similar, but they are different. We're operating on. We obviously we're not playing the arcs.
The arcs.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, but the goal crease is the same though, right? Yeah. All right. So Harbor, when they were building that field, they didn't want to, the original athletic director didn't want to put permanent lacrosse lines down on the field. Mm-hmm. And so I worked with Jerry at the time to compromise. I said, what if we just make it the universal field, and instead of having all the lines, we'll just share the lines of the boys and girls. And that's kind of where all of lacrosse is migrating to, slowly but surely. It's more slower than sure, but it is moving that way. It's funny. I'm here sitting with you right now, and you are now the master. This is like Darth Vader meeting Luke Skywalker, right? Because now I'm on the other side. I'm on the dark side. I'm here as a reporter and as a referee. So I'm definitely on the dark side of coaching, but I got to tell you, coaching does not pay anything, but the reward is fantastic. The refereeing pays a lot more than coaching, but it's way more satisfying being a coach. So as a ref, I understand how much passion every game you guys are putting into preparing for that game. So if I miss a call or get a call wrong, God, I can't even sleep at night. It's worse than what it was if I missed a call when I was coaching, right? Because then I could put it on the player. Right? Now it's only on me if I missed it. So that kind of sucks. So that's why I kind of feel like that Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker moment. You are now the light. Talk about some key players on your team this year. So you're at 4-4. Mm-hmm. Okay. A decent season. I mean, you got a loss to Sierra Canyon and Trabuco Hills, 2 powerhouse teams, bigger schools too. I mean, both of those schools are 2 times or maybe 3 times the size of Newport Harbor, and like Los Alamitos is as well. Los Alamitos is a draft of 5,000 kids in that school, right? So tell me, who's standing out? Who are the guys that you look to when you need to make a play, and who are the guys that are surprising you?
Yeah, we've really rooted in that junior class. We do have Mike, who's our senior. He's a midfielder who's just he's played since his freshman year, and he's reaping the dividends of putting in 3 years of hard work. So he's really one of our guys that we lean on. At the midfield, we also have two new players to our team coming from football, and Ryan Palmer and Luke Garrido, who they're just phenomenal athletes.
They're seniors?
they're juniors.
Juniors, that's great.
They're phenomenal athletes, and their stick skills have come so far in just 3-4 short months.
Right.
From when they picked it up, and they're running first line midfield right now for us, and
that's impressive.
Yeah, it's really a testament to what their character is, and the work that they're putting in off the field. As when us coaches after practice, we'll always hang out for a little bit, so we'll be able to see who's getting some extra reps in on the goals out on the practice field, and who's hitting the wall, and those two are definitely one who've earned their spot.
It's a resounding theme that goes across all coaches. The guys who want it more, the guys who put in the extra effort. You hear like the Mamba mentality, with Kobe and Michael Jordan and all these people putting in an insane amount of hours. But that's where greatness is found. In any career, in your career as a financial advisor, my career as a real estate person, it's the people who necessarily work smarter, but also, are just really focused and disciplined to do the work that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. Doing ground ball work is not fun.
No.
Right? That's horrible. But there's not, for a defenseman especially, that sucks, right? But there's no more important thing for a defenseman to do is get a ground ball in a crowd.
Yeah. And,
right?
there's a certain level of grittiness to be said about, guys that are going in there every time and getting in the scrum.
Tell me about your goalie. What's going on with your keeper this year?
So he's Jaden Hernandez.
Yeah.
He's another football player who freshman year he came out, never played lacrosse, and we needed a goalie at the JV level, and he picked it up, and he might have been one of the players that really opened our eyes as far as how quickly he picked up the position. It looked like he was a natural, and it was really cool to see his progression, through his freshman year and through his freshman season, having played goalie for, a season, so 3-4 months, but then right after season, he was one of those players who was like, love the sport. I'm a lacrosse player, embodied that identity. He started playing club, much like a lot of our, other younger defensemen. And,
right.
He's...
There's no position that's more counterintuitive in any sport than being a lacrosse goalie. Because literally you have somebody, you're wearing no pads, you're wearing a chest protector and a throat guard, right? And some mittens, right? Yeah. And you got guys shooting 100 miles an hour in excess sometimes, point blank, right on top of you as hard as they can. If they can't go, they're trying to shoot through you, like literally shoot through you. I've actually seen, goalies get hit in the chest and fall back into the goal with the ball.
Yeah.
I was always worried about you getting hit in the chest because of your heart issue.
Yeah, and that's when I was actually at Harbor. Around that time, that's when they introduced the new pad requirements.
Yes.
So I was, I went out and got one of those pads, right, and there was a, big chest piece to it.
That's right, right over the sternum.
That's something, like overall, that at a few, 10 years ago, that was a problem because the pads weren't keeping up with the level of the game being, played.
Right.
So, it's fortunate to see that, everything's, evolved and it's gotten more safer because player safety is, number one.
Except when it comes to alumni games.
Yeah.
Alumni just don't really seem to think about, guys, these are high school players, don't dominate these, you're full-grown men, But sometimes the full-grown men get dominated by the high school players too, right?
Yeah, it's been funny too because, being an alumni, I'll play in the alumni game every year. Unfortunately, we'll have another coach out there either reffing or coaching. And it's funny because when being an alumni and you just as an assistant coach going out there and playing, it was one thing like, okay, let's really have a fun game, get rough these kids up a little bit. But now as the head coach, I'm like talking to the alumni, you guys better not hurt these guys.
You got guys like Aiden Goulter and Rhett Farmer
and beasts lacrosse players.
Just giant guys that are just really good athletes too. Mm-hmm. Talk about what the games you got coming this season. You're 8 games in. How many games you got this season?
17.
17. So 9 more. You're at midway point and you're 500.
Yeah.
All right. What are we doing? What's the special sauce for getting over? You got your next game is whom? You're playing.
We'll be playing Yorba Linda tomorrow.
Yorba Linda at Yorba Linda.
Newport Harbor.
At Harbor. Mm-hmm. How's their program been? They used to be a powerhouse.
Yeah. I mean, they're still a pretty good program. I mean, they.
Don't give them any locker room stuff, Coach. Yeah. All right. So
they're a solid component. It'll be a great test for us. With where we're at in the year, it'd be great. Obviously come out there and get a win at Newport Harbor. But they're definitely going to bring the heat. They're very aggressive.
And then you got a week off.
No, we're actually we play Yorba Linda, and then we're going to be playing Mission Viejo. Saturday.
Oh, got it. That'd be a good game. And then you got St. John Bosco.
Yes, we have Bosco, and then we'll be going into Edison, and then really a lot of our league games.
If these were football games, this is the best. These are all the best football programs in Orange County. I mean, you just are missing modern day, but other than that, these are all the best football programs in Orange County. This is impressive, Coach. You have a juggernaut of a season ahead of you. I've got to officiate some of the games, some of your opponents here. I've seen San Juan Hills, Crean, Dana Hills, Yorba Linda. I haven't seen Yorba Linda yet, but I've seen Huntington Beach. They're good.
Yeah.
I mean, all the talent has really picked up. It is no joke.
Yeah, and overall, I kind of take a step back and look at Orange County lacrosse, from a big lens. And since the time that I was, playing Newport Harbor, compared to now, just that lacrosse, really California is one turning into a very much of a hotbed for recruiting's sake. Really, because our players can be playing year round.
That's right.
But just the overall level of play, it's gotten so good. There's more players picking up sticks. There's more teams, being founded. Yeah, high schools.
Riverside teams are now coming into play.
Yeah.
Centennial and
it's great. It's great to see the evolution of the game and how it's been growing.
The biggest challenge for you is probably coaching through COVID, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
How has that impacted the game? Because your kid. These are all kids that kind of went through middle school and kind of came in through that. How that impacted the game?
I'd say the players that previously were playing youth lacrosse, it definitely impacted more.
Killed youth lacrosse.
Yeah, because it was just a time where they weren't able to get out there and play, and I know, youth players are probably not going to be as prone as older guys to really get out there and have the discipline to go hit the wall. So that was a lot of, time where the sticks were kind of collecting dust in the garage. Yeah. So the overall level of play, I think, it definitely taken a step back just because of, especially having to lose a season. But at this point, things are really coming back strong.
What's the most memorable moment of your lacrosse career? I'm going to expand upon that in a second.
Yeah, as a player, as a coach.
That's exactly where I was going to go. As a player first, let's talk about as a player.
I'd say probably that Los Al
play.
Goal. Yeah,
that was pretty. As a high school player, that was pretty special. As a collegiate player, any special things? Any opponents?
We had a really good game against Lafayette my senior year.
Yeah,
and that was a great contest for us. So.
Lafayette, if you don't know, is in Pennsylvania. It's between Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and everything else is Kentucky in the middle of Pennsylvania. But it's the most colleges in any other state. Mm-hmm. So Lafayette, Lehigh, which I coached Noah Molnar, who went there, and he was the first pro from Orange County. Mm-hmm. What's your most as a player, as a coach, your most memorable experience to date?
I'd say just having the relationships with the players.
Yeah.
Each and every one of them is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationships that, we've really been able to develop with each and every one of them and get to know them so deeply, that's really been special and rewarding. And, I'd say one thing that's really been impactful for me was to see, we had a senior last year, McKay Ketchum, who he, picked up a stick his freshman year, and he fell in love with the game. And, his senior season last year was really something special because he had a knee operation where he lost his junior year. So when he got healthy and came out for his senior season, boy, he came with vengeance. And I mean, he had a chip on his shoulder.
He's at Chapman now, isn't he?
He's at Chapman now. So going through that,
playing lacrosse for a perennial powerhouse.
Yeah. So kind of going through that process with him, and same thing with when the cards didn't fall in his direction with losing his junior year, he really had to have that grit and that discipline to get out there and go put in those extra reps when he was healthy. And, being able to, use my personal experience with going through, a recruiting process and, having that vision set out that I want to play in college.
Right.
Having him meet that, and going to his, his signing. And that's all special.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I got literally goosebumps. You can't see it right now, but I actually have goosebumps. Because it is special when the players are signing. It's a big day for them, and it's just a wonderful event for their family. Everybody gets some swag.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Speaking of swag, I like that Newport Harbor breaker you got there. Got my eyes on it. You're about my size too. You're a big guy. All right. So, what are some of your coaching? I saw you a couple times this summer. You're coaching some club teams. What are some of the challenges to growing the team at Harbor? I know, historically, the Surf Dogs have been feeding CDM, some Newport Harbor kids for sure. Mm-hmm. And then, Huntington Beach has the HB Bears or whatever. They always seem to turn over. Tell me about some of your challenges and your plans and ideas you're working on to grow it, to actually feather your own bed, right?
Yeah, I think that, coming in, I think the biggest challenge that we had with Newport Harbor was that there was players that – they were only playing lacrosse during lacrosse season. Yeah. They weren't those quote unquote lacrosse players. They didn't wear the lacrosse swag in the hallways.
It wasn't their identity.
It wasn't their identity. So coming in, I knew, after that first season, the biggest thing that I wanted to address is we need to keep sticks in these guys' hands after spring. So I had started coaching the Stags club team around here. So they're a regional club that, they'll do tournaments in that southern
Stags region. Lacrosse, STAG.
Yeah, Saddleback Stags. So it's run by the Lisa Nagel coaches, and they're great. They're another public school, so I love what they're doing and how they're rolling it out. So being a part of them and kind of giving that avenue for our players.
What inspired the Stag logo? Harry Potter?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I knew
Patronus or whatever.
Yeah, but our players after that season, they really needed a direction to maintain and keep those sticks in their hands. Yeah. So coaching that, I coached a younger Stags team, that rising sophomore class that summer, and I think we had maybe 14 or 15 rising sophomores that played that summer, and once the just keeping the sticks in their hands. There's one thing to be a lacrosse player at Newport Harbor and just play in the spring versus being a lacrosse player playing in the spring, but then also going on the the club circuit and traveling and being a part of these club teams and being a full-time lacrosse player, it really brings an identity.
So that identity is important because when I was coaching at Harbor, grades were really important. Mm-hmm. I always took a lot of pride in making sure I let our athletic director and the other coaches know that we had the highest GPA.
Yeah.
Of all the teams, right? Yeah. I mean, it was hard to beat the chess team, right? But I mean, for athletes, 30 plus roster, at times we had 100 at one time when you were a senior.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you're pounding on the academics and grades, and do we have any outstanding scholars on the team we should know about?
We definitely have some outstanding scholars. We have some guys that are all of them are very, very smart. It's
Who's the smartest kid on the team, if you had to take a guess? You don't have to call out a name, but maybe a number.
Yeah. No, like I said, we have a few juniors that are outstanding scholars, and we have some sophomores that really excelled their freshman year. And
some of these guys with long names, they got to be scholars. To spell that name out, my gosh.
Yeah, but we're that was one thing that my first season we had some there were some problems with eligibility, and in order to have a successful program and ultimately a successful season, you can't have guys missing games because of grades.
Do you have an academic advisor for the program now?
We did last season. We did during the fall, and she was actually a teacher on campus. She actually went out on maternity leave. So,
Okay.
but yeah, doing routine grade checks and making sure, it's like I said, our team is it goes so far than just the players and the coaches on the field. It takes a lot to, make it all happen. And our coaching philosophy is that who they are off the field, how they are, how they conduct themselves as members of the community, who they are in, the classroom, all of it foreshadows who they're going to be as a player and as a teammate.
Mm-hmm.
It all goes hand in hand with their discipline and, how they carry themselves. And fortunately, grades are not a problem for us anymore.
How about with the freshman team, the JV team?
They're good.
They're on board, because sometimes that's
grades.
a transition for them too. Especially, I heard post-COVID, a lot of kids were having problems getting into the academic swing again after doing stuff online, which was completely different.
Yeah, it's just a big change. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, I wasn't a student during that time. I graduated 2019 from college.
Right.
So 2020, right when COVID hit, I didn't go through that, that educational process of, really being behind a laptop. Obviously, now working, behind a computer and whatnot, it's, I can see it a little bit, but as a high school student and a new high school student, I could imagine that was a challenge. So, even now, I'm fortunate to be in a position to where a lot of the, the teachers and the staff members on Newport Harbor's campus know how serious we take grades and how much that, that excelling in the classroom, in our belief, how that foreshadows how they're going to be on the field.
Mm-hmm.
They're very communicative with me if, a student isn't, if they're lacking on their assignments. And I'm so grateful to kind of get those scouting reports behind the scenes, because, in the end they are student athletes, and, if they're not, excelling in the classroom, we need to maybe take a step back, because lacrosse is something, it's, they need to, be grateful for that. And it's not something that they can just get, they got to earn it.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
It is a privilege. It is a privilege. And, if we need to, have a student or two in a different classroom while we're breaking down film, I'm a huge proponent of that, just because, if they need that extra classroom time, fortunately we're not in a position like that, but
You're still doing long film time? I used to do long film sessions for like forever.
yeah, well, we, fortunately now with Newport Harbor Stadium, they have that huddle camera, and it's fully AI, or, it follows the ball.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Really?
It's the whole huddle platform has just really come a long, long ways.
I had no idea. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, we, when we go into a film session, normally things are, you can take a game film, you can set the huddle camera to actually pre-record a game before, you even start the season. So it's got everything geared and ready to go. But then once you get the game film, you can actually send it to this thing called Huddle Assist, where they will basically break the whole game down to where, you can go down to a filter and collect.
They've gotten better at breaking that down, because
so you can, select a goals thumbnail, and then all the goals will come up. So as far as breaking it down from a positional level, it's fantastic.
And what people may not know is that lacrosse is a transitional game. So, in football, there's a set play, so it's easy to set the camera up. In basketball and hockey and lacrosse, it's a lot of fast break, give and go, and plays happen organically, right? And so you got to be able to have staff people that break that down and know what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Right. So you got Matt Verducci, that's Verducci, right?
Yeah.
Bobby Trujillo.
Yeah.
Did I get his name in front of? He
Yeah.
always criticized me not getting his name right. Trujillo, I used to call him, just messing around though. And Christian Rulis and Blake Lenk.
Yep.
We got Sarah Wilson as a statistician and Susie Escobar.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
They're two parents that are part of our program.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Any freshmen to look out for, Coach?
Yeah, we got some freshmen that are, out there, and it's funny to see, our freshman class, because they show up to practice and they're competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, they go out there and they fight. So, yeah, we have
a little bit of moxie, huh?
Yeah. So
Love it.
we have some freshmen that are really stepping up to the plate and playing well. Fortunately, we're in a position as a program though to where, you know, when I came in, a lot of that young talent we were putting up on varsity, and you know, just to you know, have that level of play with us. So a lot of that JV team was, you know, first year players, really learning the game. Now, as my third season, we've had, you know, a good amount of players, you know, picking up sticks and being a part of it. We actually are having, you know, not only some freshmen, but also a good amount of sophomores that are able to play on JV because those game minutes are so important. What's
it going to take to get into Sunset League or get into the playoffs?
Well, for us, a lot of fight. You know, we're, like I said, you know, our team sat down at the beginning of the season and we talked about how we wanted to identify ourselves, and that was commitment, aggressiveness, and resilience. So I
identify as a Newport dad because I wear a puffy sweater, puffy vest, and an Oxford. Yeah, that's a Newport dad, right?
Yeah.
And
so as far as getting into the playoffs, you know, as long as we hit those 3 pillars, and you know, we treat every game as
3 pillars once again:
commitment, resilience, and aggressiveness.
Awesome.
We hit those 3 pillars, and we take every challenge and every matchup that we have, you know, give it 100%. Depending on, you know, once that game is over, move on, you know, close that chapter. If there's things that we need to address and go over as learning opportunities, we'll do it. But really closing that page, because that next game is a whole new game and it's a whole new matchup. So for us, playoffs, being 4-4, you know, we need to have a 500 record and getting that bid. So yeah, I mean, just ultimately
make it happen, Coach. Yeah, make it happen, man. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, come out, watch Newport Harbor play. It's in the best stadium in the Sunset League by far, probably one of the best stadiums in all of Orange County. You have a great coach who's putting a great product on the field, and the kids love him and respond to him. And make sure you support your local high school team. Blake, thank you, man. I love you. It's been a pleasure to coach you.
Of course, thank you.
Coach beside you. Call you my friend, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.